Suriname, some of the indigenous population remained, and for some reason they were exposed to Santeria, the worship of ancestral spirits and religions that almost resemble Obia. But please remember that sailors from Africa came to the Caribbean before the Europeans came and settled. Okay, so there, so you might have to now start thinking about the practices in some of the Caribbean islands that still persist today, um, stemming from earlier people, the indigenous people in Suriname and Guyana and so on. But whatever the case is, one of the prominent traditions is Obia, which served as a system of herbal and spiritual technology used for various purposes. Obia practitioners, often referred to as readers, are skilled herbalists who are sought after for healing physical, spiritual, and mental disorders, as well as protection from malevolent spiritual forces. Obia was also historically associated with slave resistance and revolt, with beliefs in its practitioner's ability to poison and dominate others through the manipulation of shadows. Say, for example, Nanny of the Maroons, who relied on Obia as a way to encourage her followers and to encourage the resistance movement against the Europeans, who eventually made it illegal to practice Obia in 1882, I believe. Now, some researchers trace the origins of Obia to the Ashanti people of present-day Ghana and their practice of Obia Yifo. Another significant Jamaican religious tradition is Jamaican revivalism, which also known as Pokomini and Jamaican revivalism came about as a result of the Great Revival. Now, I think it was in the middle of the 1800s, like the 1850s. 60s, 70s, which eventually led to these traditions being outlawed. But this tradition, Jamaican revivalism, is more structured than Obia. It's more structured than Obia and exhibits similarities with, listen to this, Haitian voodoo. But of course it is. Because Dottie Bookman came from Senegambia to Jamaica as a slave in captives, and then escaped and went to Haiti. He was said to be a voodoo priest. He was said to be he was said to be able to read the Quran, and started a congregation there, and may have also started a small following and also imparting the teachings so as to preserve the Afro-Caribbean traditions in Jamaica and the Caribbean. But the tradition is revivalism is more structured than Obia. Okay. Obia is not necessarily a religion, it's a practice. It's a tradition, it's a practice. But the tradition revivalism, Jamaican revivalism, is more structured than Obia and exhibits similarities within Haitian voodoo. Jamaican revivalism has numerous churches and congregations in major US cities today, Philadelphia, New York, so on and so forth. It incorporates elements of West African and Haitian religions, with various spirits venerated in the tradition being associated with specific foods, colors, and music. So rituals often involve drumming, dancing, and trance-like states, allowing contact between worshippers and spirits for divine healing or inspiration. While the Holy Spirit is said to possess devotees in revivalist traditions, spirits of biblical figures like Jeremiah and Peter are also invoked, it has similarities with Christianity, in terms of invoking of the Holy Spirit. But this invocation of the Holy Spirit had already started with the Afro-Caribbean tradition, African traditions, and Christianity was influenced. As Christian missionaries travel all over the world, and rub shoulders with other persons, some of the Christian teaching was also influenced by other traditions, just so you know. Perhaps the most well-known Jamaican religious tradition is Rastafarianism, which emerged during the Depression years of 1930s. It is a complex spiritual and political movement that combines Jamaican folk Christianity with Africanist sentiments, influenced by Marcus Garvey's United Negro Improvement Association. So, of course, a lot of Rastafarians draw their philosophies from the UNIA of Marcus Garvey. Rastafarians reject British colonial. But just so you know, it's quite interesting. Marcus Garvey promoted a kind of Christianity that which forms part of Rastafarianism, because part of the UNIA and Marcus Garvey's beliefs and traditions is also incorporated within Rastafarianism. And of course, some of that is Christian because he himself was a Christian and promoted Christianity and imperialism and capitalism. That's Marcus Garvey, but he wasn't a Rastafarian. Rastafarians reject British colonialism and draws inspiration from Ethiopia, the only African land mentioned in the Bible. They believed Haile Selassie, the 20th century emperor of Ethiopia, known as the Lion of Judah, to be the 225th king of biblical Ethiopia. Rastafarians adopted the name Rastafari, which means Prince of Tafari province, as their own, and some Rastafarians have even settled in Ethiopia, Ghana, Zaire, fulfilling the dream of a return to Africa, starting from Marcus Garvey back to Africa. And it continues. Right now, a lot of Jamaicans live in Ghana with lots of businesses, a lot of Jamaicans live in Ethiopia. Ghana, in fact, Ghana, I understand that many Jamaicans and Caribbean people can access lands in Ethiopia and Ghana, um, which is quite interesting. But many Jamaicans live in Ghana, quite a few, quite a lot. Because in fact, I do a podcast, which many of you know, and when I look at the analytics, I saw that the top three country that listen to my podcast is from Ghana. I'm like, who from Ghana is listening to my podcast? But then I started to do some research and we realized some years ago, realized that many Jamaicans live there and have businesses there. And many people are even going there. It's really a great place to visit, a great place to live, a great place to have business there. Rastafarians interpret the Old Testament as the history of Black people and view themselves as successors to biblical prophets. They often speak as the present day voices of prophets like Moses and Joshua and Isaiah. The distinctive Rastafarian hairstyle, which is dreadlocks, which many people confuse to mean Jamaican, but Rastafarian hairstyle, dreadlocks, symbolizes both the lion's mane and the strength of the biblical figure. Samson, now Rastafarians believe that African warriors also wore their hair in a similar style. The sacramental use of marijuana among Rastafarians is considered to bring divine inspiration, cure disease, and to enhance strength. Now, in the United States, Rastafarianism is widely associated with its reggae music, which carries the rhythm and message of the tradition. Reggae music is like the gospel of Rastafarianism, which reggae started in the 1950s or 60s. Reggae lyrics often express social protest and the longing of return to biblical Ethiopia. Rastafarianism, through its cultural expressions and resistance to US-centric Jamaican and American cultures, affirms African identity and serves as a form of protest even today. So that's that. If you so that's extra notes available, and it's available in ResearchGate if you want to see it. And hopefully you guys can check it out on ResearchGate, which actually I wrote something else. I wrote a note. I had a comment. I made a comment on here which I want to share with you. I made a comment some time ago. Caribbean unity and black and brown people's unity threatens the status quo. So the plan was and is always to implement strategies that create disunity, such as rejecting and diluting the language as Creole and religions as animistic, religions, faith, and practices as evil for a Eurocentric one. Hence, we want to rediscover our unity by revisiting our history and the changing attitudes towards Afro-Caribbean beliefs and traditions in Jamaica and the Americas. How did we get here? The fact that the Jamaican government's announcement to open discussions on legalizing opium created such backlash from some, particularly the Catholic, Protestant, Evangelical, and Protestant churches, is an indication of what continues to drive disunity among all people today. Opium is a practice that is found even within some Jamaican faith traditions, such as revivalists. The very idea that the church openly disagreed with the move by the Jamaican government to have a national discussion on the issue, calling it evil, is an indication of the divide and the discrimination within our systems, driven by an inherited colonial past that we are yet to get beyond. Hence, the study of the Jamaican government's plan to discuss the issue is timely and welcome, as we can dispel some of the misinformation and encourage diversity, equity, and inclusivity. Only then will be realized true independence, unity, and prosperity. I actually wrote an article. Um, I comments there, full comments, one, two. I actually wrote an article. I actually wrote an article which is available in the Jamaica Gleaner, but some time ago, while updating the research, because we updated the research and the notes, while updating this research and this study and this lecture and reviewing the responses, I came across an article in the Jamaican Gleaner, which was letter of the day, which confirms the initial assertions about the study and highlights why the study is important, exploring attitudes towards Afro-Caribbean beliefs. We asserted that in Jamaica, there has always been a negative attitude towards Afro-Caribbean beliefs. Over a year ago, the Jamaican Labour Party government announced it would open discussions to have the 122-year-old act repealed. When the announcement was made, many Jamaicans and church groups rallied together to fight the motion. Their main argument was that, again, opium is inherently evil. We're ending, class is not ending. We're just, I provided some instructions and we're giving you guys time to do what you need to do, stretch your legs. The assignment I give you wouldn't be more than probably an hour to do or 30 minutes. It's very quick. But of course, if you want it to be worthwhile, you can do it with somebody else. Okay, make introspective. All right. Take care, guys, and what good. I see you on Wednesday. Ceteris paribus, all things being equal.
Okay, so if the song don't hit us, what's the advance?
Yeah, man. Remember, look out for an email. If we're having class, if we're not having class, we're having class for now. But if we're not having class, I'm going to send an email saying we are postponing class for this week. I know by, if not tomorrow, I know by Wednesday, depending on what how the situation develops. Okay.
Sorry, I saw my message.
Oh, thank you so much. And yes, guys, please pray for my mom. Pray for her strength. She is at a point where, she's a fighter. She's not ready to go. You know, some people give up and say they're ready. She's not. And she's going through it. She has, you know, her life has just changed drastically. What she used to be and what she is now. She's gotten much slimmer, and you know, she's still her. She her mental capacity is still off the charts, but you know, she can't move as well as she used to. And cancer, they cut one of her lungs, and the cancer is, and the cutting of the, you know, when you cut somebody that's affected, you have to be careful how you cut. Cutting sometimes is not good. When you cut something, it causes it to grow much more ferociously. So sometimes some cancers, depending on what it is best served with radiation, chemo, and they have different types of radiation and chemo. Sometimes doing surgery can create more problems, and that's part of the problem too. The surgery that she had done in